All right, welcome to Get Nisty, the podcast that breaks compliance out of the checkbox trap and turns it into a real security advantage. No fluff, no FUD, just practical strategies to make compliance work for your MSP. I'm Jared Kasner, and I'm joined by my co-founder of Blacksmith InfoSec and co-host of Get Nisty, Michael Zabarski. Today, in a special live recording, we are joined by Jean Templin, founder of Nyack.ai. Jean, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Jean. I'm founder of Nyack.ai. And what we do is we are EQ for sales journeys. So we're really helping MSPs grow their revenue by helping them build that trust in the cycle as they're talking to sales customers. I am a co-founder twice, and I have a couple exits, and I'm super excited to use AI technology to solve this whole hard problem.
Awesome. Well, as you know, Mike and I are not salespeople. We are doing sales today because we have to. There's like this strange thing where you actually have to generate revenue in order to keep your business alive. So that like having to figure out the sales journey along the way. But our background is not in sales. And so we're really excited to talk to you about kind of this current state of affairs with sales and how people can leverage AI to accelerate the process and get better at the sales journey. And so maybe that's a good place to start. What is the state of play in sales today?
So sales, I think, buyers are shifting. They're getting smarter. They're doing a lot of research before they're actually coming into a call. And when they actually decide to talk to you, they are all know everything pretty much about you. Whereas the sales world is still using all these generic playbooks, these generic frameworks, and they're not personalizing it enough. And I think there's this big gap that's there right now. And you guys might have seen that when you're talking. I get it on inbounds about like, oh, why are you interested in our software? Kind of questions you'll get, and you'll understand then that person really hasn't done their due diligence. So that's really where it is. So I think there's a lot of tools being developed. AI is trying to come in and help with productivity, personalization at scale, and really trying to help sales teams prepare and get ready for calls and know a lot about that buyer before they get on a call and then as that journey continues.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because you talked. I'm going to start with one of the first things you said, which is the buyers are coming already knowing everything about you. And what we've seen is, to some extent, that's true. And to some extent, there's a lot of like misinformation that they're coming in with, right? They've gone out and they've had ChatGPT do the research on Blacksmith, for example, and they'll be like 80% right, which is about par for the course with a lot of the generic AI tools that are not specialized is sort of that 80% benchmark. And so let's say, oh yeah, I'm really excited about you because of X, Y, and Z. And we're like, oh, we don't do any of those things, but cool. Let's talk about what we actually do and how we can help you and what problems are you trying to solve. And so it's sort of an interesting buyer journey also, where the buyers think they are completely informed about what you do, may or may not be. And so maybe we'll start there. How do you correct those misperceptions in an effective way when they don't fully understand what your business does?
Yes. So you're absolutely right. Well, the three things that buyers are coming to answer in the call is transparency. Have what they learned about you. Is it accurate? Right? So remember, they're doing their due diligence out there on the web. So somewhere on the web, whatever they're gathering is not, or the way they're gathering it, maybe it's through a ChatGPT, maybe it's not, right? Somewhere out there might be another, blacksmith that's giving them the wrong information. They're looking to make sure that you personalize the content of what you deliver to them and understanding them. And then they're looking to build that beginnings rapport and to build that trust. So no matter what, trust has to be there before they're going to say, yes, I'm going to use this provider. So when you're in the call, if they're coming in that, you can see AI still not perfect in many ways, right? Which is why we are kind of hyper-focused on the vertical of MSPs and providing that very technical piece in, because you can't be generic for it to bring the value that you need it to. And when you use stuff like ChatGPT, it's probably not detailed enough. Or there's somebody out there called Blacksmith that's doing something different. So those are the three things that they're looking to get from you on the call. So so you will see them come in, but you have to understand if they're coming in with that information, either they've been told it wrong or somewhere it's been sent to them wrong.
Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about that because yes, there are plenty. There's a whole like branch of people that are actual blacksmiths. And so we get a little bit, we haven't seen any of that in our inbound sales calls, but we have seen people tag the wrong blacksmith on LinkedIn, for example, when they meant us. And fortunately, the other blacksmith companies out there are really good about responding and playing nice in that space. But I want to put a pin in the trust comments that you talked about, and we'll come back to that in a little bit, because I think that's a deeper branch that we can get into. One of the other things that you asked or commented on was when you get on the phone with a client and they say, or the first thing that the salesperson asks is, so what brings you here today? That doesn't engender a whole lot of trust. And I know Mike and I have been guilty of it. So why are you interested in us kind of questions? What should people be asking instead? Or how should they be framing that initial conversation?
Yeah. So what you'll see people do is, instead of saying, well, why are you interested in us? Oh, I understand your business does this, and this is how we fit in, right? That is how you frame it differently. And then they will say, oh, yes, that's what I was thinking, or not, or it will take the journey. Instead of that, makes and instills that you have done your homework, right? You know what they're doing. You know how you could be used as a solution to fit some gaps that they may have, right? They have come to you for something. Well, unless they're thinking it's blacksmith, the other one. But if they came to you for your core, what you're doing, flip it the other way. Oh, yes, we work with other people like you in this industry that you happen to be in, whether you're talking to somebody from a wealth management firm or a construction firm or whomever you're talking to. That's how you flip it around.
So I can see Mike's wheels spinning here.
Yeah, one of the things that is also helpful is almost doing like a case study, right, with an existing client to say, hey, here's the box that you fit into. You're a wealth management firm, as you said, Gene, or a construction firm. How are you tackling this problem that one of my other clients had, right? And it really makes it personal. It really shows, hey, we're actually dealing with these issues day in and day out, and starts building that rapport a lot quicker.
So, and along with that, so those are the kind of things that we would bring forward in what we call this. There's 3 steps of the process of a meeting, right? You prepare for it. So we create something called a cheat sheet. And then in the meeting, we're listening in and coaching you live. And then after the meeting, of course, we do the note taking, we do summaries, we give some signals of what could have been done differently, right? Or where you stand in what we call emotional intelligence, which is confidence building, which is building rapport, which enables the trust, right? And building the trust. So yeah, so we think of things like, you're a wealth management company, do you have a case study, something like this? Maybe you know it off the top of your hand. Again, it comes down to we try to aggregate the information together for you. Or if, let's say you're newer and you don't have a wealth management company yet, but yet you still want to build something with them, we could give them the 5 things of why wealth management companies use tools like us, right? Things like that. So yeah, and I think what we also do is we help build that rapport. And Mike or Jared, I'd love to understand, how do you build rapport with the people on the call?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is it's very personable.
People like to start it.
People skills. No, I think a lot of it is because our background is technical and we're dealing with MSPs. We can get into the nitty gritty and we can be that SME. So as we're talking and they say, hey, we've got this niche case that we're trying to solve for, or we've got this we're like, oh yeah, have you tried this? It's like, oh, no, we haven't. And so I think that goes a long way, just because we've been in the space for so long, being SMEs in the space, and because we're talking to technical people, it helps. The other piece has really been, again, it's not really on a first call, but when they have some sort of issue, if they're going through the demo or the trial, being super responsive, we've gotten a lot of really good feedback on that, where they'll email the support email and they're like, we'll call them back and they're like, oh, I wasn't expecting a call at 8 p.m. on a Friday. It's like, oh, you reached out. So I think just, being consistent and being there for them and making sure that they're getting what they need, whether it's a first call and what they need is information, not trying to obfuscate, hide stuff, just being very transparent. And if the answer is, yeah, we don't do this, it can be, hey, we don't do this, but it's on the roadmap, or hey, we don't do this and we don't plan on doing this and here's why. And they appreciate that as well. We've had those conversations and don't always go great, but at least we've had actually people that left that call and said, hey, because you guys aren't doing this, we don't want to do business with you. And then they've come back like 3 months later and they've said, hey, I know you guys said that you aren't doing this. I went to this other company that said they're doing this, but they're not really doing it. And so again, just being upfront and transparent really helps a lot.
Yeah. I think the other thing that has been really helpful when it comes to building rapport is storytelling and using the language that works or that your clients like to use. So when you can, and if you're an MSP and you're selling into restaurants or financial or wealth management firms or golf courses or whatever it is, using the language and again, Mike was talking about this. It's in some ways a lot easier for me and Mike to be talking to an MSP because it's nerd talking to nerd, and like we can build that nerd rapport goes a long way. We're kind of steeped in that same ecosystem. But if you're the sole practitioner or a small MSP and you don't have the sales team that is out there and has lived and breathed the client environment, you have to find a way to talk their language. So if you're talking to a wealth management company, speak in terms of financial investment. If you're talking to a restaurant or a golf course, talk in terms of that service professional and think about what it would take to actually run a restaurant and put yourself in their shoes as you're having that conversation. And when you can talk about, one of my favorite ones is talking about security controls with a restaurant owner, right? Hey, why do I need MFA? All right, let's talk about this a little bit. You've got a bouncer who's out front checking IDs. There's your first your first identification verification is the ID check. And then maybe you run it through a scanner or use a black light to check the seals. There's your second factor of authentication, essentially, right? So like when you can start to put cybersecurity controls into a language that your clients understand and talk about why it's important and the risks that you're reducing in the language that they understand, the light bulb goes off. They say, this person doesn't just understand the technical controls. They understand my business and how the technical controls relate to my business and how they can help me be more successful. And that is a huge generator for that quick rapport that you're going to be able to help them and be the partner that they need to go forward.
Right. Agree with you. I call that being the chameleon, right? As a salesperson, you basically have to change who you are and the way you speak, which is exactly what Nayak helps do, because not everybody has the ability to do that. Other things that we do for building rapport is common interest experiences. Sometimes that's how it will open up. Like, hey, like Mike, you and I, we both lived in DC. I used to live there at one point. That's a rapport builder, right? And then along with changing how would I walk in your shoes and be that chameleon, we also help you understand their personality type, which is completely different than that. So you could be walking in their shoes and they could be direct, or they could be more of I'm always the direct one. So I don't like to beat around the bush. And when people are storytelling and telling me too much, I will turn off a little bit, right? And so I think you have to take both of those, and all of those kind of signals that you're reading. We typically call that read the room, right? You're reading the room. You're looking around to see if somebody's understanding what you're saying. And that's what we're using AI to do at NIAC, and to help you with a real panel in the background. I think it's similar to what you guys see when you're looking for security violations, blinky things, lights and stuff. But it's telling you, are you building, are you pacing right? Are you doing things right? It's guiding you to kind of alter or make you that chameleon to the way the person would want to hear that conversation, to give you the best chance. Because at the end, and I know everybody's heard of her, Robin Robbins, who is like the guru of sales in the MSP world. What does she say? They're not buying your product, they're buying trust in you, right? And that is what we are trying to build in the AI and scale it so that you as a technical person, if you have to talk to somebody that maybe is not technical, we can help you understand the signals to be more, I'd like to call it salesy. And then the salesy people, as you guys, get 50 salespeople on, they're all not going to be techie. You're going to want them to become more technical when they're speaking in certain places, right? So all those things are kind of what we are building into this. And and now we can do it now because of technology, right? It's just advanced to the point where it's doable. And this whole theory is based in science, which is called emotional intelligence. And there is psychologists and books and many Harvard Business Review, Salesforce has talked about it. EQ, high EQ scores are what makes the best sellers, right? Because they're able to read the room and adjust. And it's not just voice, it's visual, right? You look at people and their facial expressions, their body language, and you're understanding all that. So now technology has evolved and we can actually do that in real time and adjust.
So,
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited about with AI and with NIAC in particular is the ability to be that, to use your words, that to be that chameleon at scale, right?
Okay.
And so one of the examples I like to talk about, Rocket Mortgage is it's a name brand that people have heard about and has been one of the top mortgage companies for the last 10 or 15 years. Part of what makes them so special, they've got 1,000 plus agents in a call center in Arizona. But when those agents get on the phone with somebody, they have this whole custom build out of Salesforce that brings up local sports scores and weather reports and all this other, like this heads up dashboard for the salesperson or the customer support agent that's getting on the phone. And so Rocket Mortgage is not the cheapest mortgages out there. They're not, but they've become the biggest because they have invested so much in their sales practice to make it so that when you're talking to somebody in Arizona, you have no idea that they're in Arizona. You think they're in your backyard, and they're building that rapport from the moment they get on the phone with you, talking about the weather, and they make you feel like they're in your backyard. And when they can be that local trusted partner, even when they're 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles away, it changes the game completely.
Exactly.
Now, not all of us have the resources of a Rocket Mortgage to go out and invest in a massive Salesforce organization, not just the Salesforce, but the software of Salesforce and the call center and all, right? So like we don't have the resources for that, but this is where AI allows us to be able to build that at scale in a way that is uniquely customized for each customer that we're getting onto.
That's why you have NIAC. That's exactly what it's doing, right? So we research, so we know who's coming into a call and we know and we know the companies and all that information. So we can do things just like you said, they're in Seattle, it's raining, it's doing this, or it just had a major this, right? We know if the two participants in the call, or 3 or 4, have any common interests. And we bring that out in what we call our cheat sheet before the call so that you can review it as the salesperson. And then we remind you of all this stuff while you're in the call. So there's some hints going on. And then we also do things like, let's say you want detailed information, product information, we'll bring that up if you stumble over it, right? So the goal is to help navigate you through that process, right? And so that is what it's called EQ again. We're layering it into the whole sales journey. We're starting with the meetings and the sales cycle and things. So we want MSPs, and we're heavily invested in MSPs, right? We're doing dark web scans before you get into the call, so you can use that as an icebreaker. Oh, did you know that you had 5 different things compromised last week, right? Or in compliance for you guys, we could do something like, oh, do you know you're out of compliance here or there or there? Or these new rules came out yesterday. Or there's all these things. And think of these artifacts as live. They're not once done, which was the old way to do things. They continue to evolve, and it follows you through the whole sales cycle. And then it hands off to the account management team to be able to know what was said before. And that idea of having like a trust score, and we believe trust is there when you start on the call and then you lose it. Some people believe you earn it. So we're kind of like going back and forth, but you earn confidence, you show confidence, and you have to build rapport. Right. So those are kind of like, think 3 little modules going up and down, and we're giving you hints on how to make those go up and down to get to the next level while making you the chameleon to speak in the right. It's a lot of moving things, but if you think about all the stuff you monitor on the back end, it's when you're in security, it's not that much. It's not different, right? But we're bringing it to the sales cycle, the sales team in live. And our goal is to help the new sales and move straight into doing upsell.
Yep. And I promised we were going to come back to trust, and I'm glad you kind of circled us back there, because I know Mike sort of talked about it a little bit because building rapport and building trust are sort of related, but there's more to it than that, right? And I think, Gene, you started to lean into this a little bit with one way you build trust is by when the client asks you or the prospect asks you about something, being able to answer them quickly and knowledgeably and accurately about it, right? And so it's not just building the rapport, it's also building the trust. And so I mean, Mike, I know in some ways when it comes to compliance topics, it's really easy for you because somebody will bring up a compliance framework and you say, oh yeah, here are the 6 clients that I've done this with. And so it's a really easy way of building trust from that standpoint. But as you're scaling your sales organization, it's not you on the call asking that or answering those questions. How do you start to do that? And sure, you can Google in real time, but that is not necessarily the best way of building trust. And so what are some things, some of the techniques that you've used so far, Mike?
Yeah, and I don't know that I have a great answer for that, just because I am so ingrained in it. But thanks for putting me on the spot. No, I think there's other things you can do other than just being that SME, right? It's the when they ask and you don't know, saying, hey, you know what, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to you on it, and getting back to them quickly, right? I've done that before because people will come to me and they say, hey, we have one of our first partners that we had, Blacksmith, actually reached out to us and asked about the New York Education Law 2D, and I'd never heard of it. And so I was like, you know what, I haven't heard about it, but let me do some research and I'll get back to you. We got back to him within like 2 days, not only with here's what's needed, but not only what you need to do to be compliant, but also, hey, we can have this on our platform within the next 2 to 3 days. He was like, that would be amazing. And we've been partnered with him for over a year now. They're a great partner, but I think just, again, going back to just, not sugarcoating it, just being very straightforward, but also following through on what you're going to say can go a really long way to build that rapport. And, don't BS them. They can smell through the BS very quickly. Just be upfront about it.
So yeah, I agree, Mike. I think actions are huge with building trust, right? If you say you're going to do something, do it. Even if you can't, at least email them back and say, hey, I need a little bit more time.
Yep.
The fact that all these action items. And then another thing that we are helping with here, I think, Jared, you and I briefly talked about it. Let's say there is a new compliance framework of some sort you've never heard of before. Our bot is our recorder's sitting here listening, and we listen and we could query that up very quickly for you. And we could say, here it is, right? You might not have an answer of how you're going to handle it yet, but at least you can say, oh, yes, I see what it is. I understand. Let me get back to you, right? So if it's stuff like, let's say it's it's not you, Mike, it's a junior person that you're bringing in and they stumble a little bit over it, we'll bring up quickly on the call, we'll bring up some hints that say, here's how to say it, right? And that's really what the coaching in real time can do. It can help you build a rapport. It can help you augment the way you're speaking, or, hey, they're not understanding you by the way that their face, are words that they're saying back to you. Things like when you get interrupted by a buyer, right? You know that they're not happy. They're not understanding you, right? So maybe instead of getting flustered, rephrase it. How would you rephrase it? And we can help do those things on the fly. And those, they'll come, a lot of this comes over time. It doesn't come out of the box exactly like that. We do the common objections out of the box and different things that we can help you with on product information. And then there's a learning system behind it, right? It's continually evaluating and getting better. And
that sentiment analysis is a really interesting topic too, Gene, because I think we've seen both sides of it, right? There's the folks that will just, this is amazing, this is the coolest thing ever, and then they never talk to you again, right? And so there's that side of it, and being able to figure out, all right, which ones of those people are actually excited, leaning in, and like truly interested in what you're doing, and the people versus the ones that are like, yeah, I'm gonna just smile and nod and tell you how great you are, and then ghost you. So that's one side of it, and the other side of it is the objections that you're talking about, right? It's you almost can get into an adversarial relationship with the prospect when they are asking questions, and if you get flustered along with them, it becomes an argument about, well, yes, we do. No, you don't. Yes, you do. And that's also not helpful, right? So it's both sides of that coaching to be able to know when to dig in on the smile, the fake smile, and when to how to overcome the objections on the and avoid the adversarial relationships. I don't know if you want to shed any light on those.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, the person that's going, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. There's definitely a personality type behind that you would play into that. So you would be able to understand that more. And then, so I think that along with rapport is confidence. You have to show confidence, right? They're trusting you. You have to know, and you have to feel as if you're confident, and they have to feel that. And there's a lot of things they might say based off the way who their personality is that you're not reading in the moment. That's very normal, right? And then again, our summaries are there at the end to really help you learn how to do it better and better and better, right? And that's why we're there to coach you. We're there to prepare you, coach you, and then summarize, right? Because even with all that, you're never going to be 100. It's never going to be 100%, right? We all, no matter how good we are, I'm sure Mike, expert, you still probably forget something here or there. It's just human nature, right? And that's really what we're trying to help and guide for, right? Build that confidence in the reps, especially new ones, to have the expertise because they have this little companion next to them, right? That they can lean back on. And salespeople they're very used to having multiple tabs open and looking at things in different places.
Yep.
So it's not like you're going to take away from the conversation because they're already doing that. They probably have 2 screens open, all their data over here, and we're trying to aggregate it and put a little hint system in there for them and a little screen. So yeah, I think that is exactly what you're hitting it right on the spot. It's kind of like you need confidence, you need rapport. And then that trust is really instilled. And when you build trust is where you don't get ghosted, Jared. Like they trust you. Now, there could be other things that you lose the deal for, right? Where maybe your pricing isn't there, or there's a feature set or something else outside of that control of the salesperson per se. But what we're trying to give that salesperson is that guide to get it to that trust level because they're not going to purchase without trust, period, right? And so you have to make sure you have.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I would much rather have somebody tell me no, or call me in 6 months than have them ghost me and leave me wondering. Because generally speaking, if they tell me no or tell me in 6 months, there's a reason for that, right? If it's a no, usually it's I'm not ready. It's what there's some or there's a feature that's missing, and then I know when I can go back and follow up. And it's not a time-based thing; it's a feature-based thing. If it's a call me in 6 months, it's usually because they're with a competitor and they're already locked into a contract, and so it's, hey, my contract's up for renewal in 6 months. Call me in 5 months, and then it's on me as the salesperson to remember to call them, because guess what? I'm not going to be top of mind in 5 months when it comes time for renewal. I need to get there not a day before their renewal, but 35 days before their renewal, because they probably have a 30-day notice period that they need to write. So I need to be before that 30-day notice. It's not just when does your contract renew, it's when do I need to get into there before, right? And so it's knowing to ask those types of follow-up questions.
Why do you think they ghost you?
I wish I knew.
Well, think of it from the other side. You also buy products, right? So you got to think of it from the buyer side of that scenario. When I don't respond back, it's because we either had a crappy call. You might have thought I was great. It was great, but I'm not interested, right? You didn't build something in me that was interested enough. Like if I came to the demo, and that's where, especially if they're inbound, and they've come, they've taken their time, they're sitting through 30 minutes. That's a lot of time for people. And now I really but you're going to ask me, well, why aren't they interested, right? What went wrong? That is where the tool will be able to help you. But like, I would guess on the ones that you are getting ghosted on, and we're actually testing this out a little bit with, you don't have the trust. You haven't built the rapport, or you haven't built the confidence yet. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think where it's frustrating for me, again, not being a salesperson, is I think we've all had a couple of these calls before where I get halfway through the demo and the person, I've actually had this happen. The person stopped the demo and they're like, hey, this is really cool, but I really want to show this to the larger team because I think we really need this. We want to move forward with this, et cetera. Can we schedule with the larger team, with my boss and his boss, et cetera? And I was like, sure. And send out the invite, they accept. And then they're like, hey, we need to reschedule. Something came up. Still super excited. I'm like, cool. Here's a link to reschedule. They reschedule for the date. Hey, something came up. We're still excited, but then they don't reschedule and then they ghost you. And I'm just like, if you're not interested, that's fine. But then why
So there's like when you map in who is important in the journey, right? So they say there's on larger deals 10 to 15 people involved, right, in a purchase. So when you're at the beginning, you're at the very first person, and he and or she might have to make the case internally to get the rest of the people. So the question is, what are they missing to get those people involved, right? Or is there somebody else you can reach out to behind it to say what's happening? Those are harder ones to understand, but yeah, we're trying to put some of that in. That'll be later stage a little bit to understand that missing piece, right? Because it happens to me too. I'm not going to say it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Or you're like, okay, yeah, here's the access to give it a demo, and they don't ever create an account, and you're like, and they're emailing you over and over again to get access. And I'm like, okay, well, what happened, right? So things happen, right? Priorities change, people go on vacation, and then a decision gets made or something. But yeah, it would be interesting to understand all that. There's a thing called, and we could talk through this at a different time, called the dark funnel, where you can actually see signals from what's going on from them versus are they looking at other competitors, things like that, and did they make a selection or not? There's a lot of other signals you can see that possibly they're not telling you, and they call these intent, right? Buyers intent signals, and in mapping those in the future, we might do some of them at NIAC, right? We're really focused on other things, but if our MSPs are like, I want to know this, then we'll get into this deeper. We know how to do it, right? But our goal is really to make sure that you get that trust and you keep that trust, right? Because you can buy those buyer signals from other providers and add it into your system, right?
Yep.
That was not really what we wanted to touch too much, but there is a lot of buyer signals out there you can purchase and put in. And one day when you're ready, we can talk about all these little tools and like what's the name of it? Rocket
Mortgage. Yep.
Mortgage. Thank you. That is probably $1 million tech stack right there. So, so we're giving you as much as we can, bells and whistles, for like $100 a month. Like we're not even talking a high price point because we want you to be successful out of the gate. So the beginning stuff that we're layering in, the pre-read, some of the stuff where we're putting in like dark web scans, maybe or maybe not. Well, we're kind of playing around with that idea, but like we give you the personality traits, the information about the company. You don't have to buy Apollo. You don't have to buy other things. We'll give all this stuff to you, right? And then we coach you during it, and we'll start to layer more and more in. But we wanted a price point where we get you at least this baseline information, which I'm going to say most MSPs probably don't use right now to talk to their customers. And think of it, it follows the next meeting you have, meeting number 2. A pre-read comes in. Here's all the things you talked about last time. Here's all the action items you covered. Did you finish them or not? Right? Oh yeah. Here's breaking news that just happened on this company. And here are the people you're talking to again, because remember, each meeting is dynamic and more people can be pulled in or pulled out. Right? So that's what we're giving. $100 at Snap-it-On. We are building our HubSpot integration right now, and you get 30-day free trial too. So all that, why it's such a deal, right? Building our HubSpot, we're not looking for you to come in and use this as another tool. We're looking to use the tools you already have. We integrate with calendars to pull all the information, and then we can push and pull into we do a Go High Level, but we're also doing HubSpot, and we will be adding Kaseya into. So we're going to push it into the PSA, and eventually we'll do ConnectWise and Kaseya. We're going to do both. So this will be tools where you just snap it on top. $100 a month out for the basic level, and it will go up from there per user per month. Unlimited tasks for now. And what we mean by a limited task is, a normal MSP user, you're not going out there and sharing users and, fair usage policy stuff. Yeah, that is what we're looking to build. And we're hoping the community becomes involved because we want to continue to invest in it and go deeper and deeper and deeper with the MSPs to understand what else they would want to see.
You brought up Kaseya integration, and of course, my technical mind, went straight to, hey, I wonder if MSPs can leverage something like this for their help desk, so when their help desk talks to their customers.
Absolutely. So our goal is to start in sales journey, right? Yeah. And people have asked us about it. It can go anywhere. It can go also into anywhere in the customer journey, right? So it could go into the customer side, the customer service side, or the technical tickets or whatever, absolutely. That's why we're pushing it there. So if you want to use us in the future, we could think about that. It can also go internally. We've been asked to use it internally in your companies. What's going on within my company? Where are their hot spots? Should I be looking for helping my managers manage better? This use is everywhere. And this is just what we're talking about here. I want to help interview. Why couldn't I build the cheat sheet for the interview? Like, what's the difference? It's just a matter we're helping right now solve. We're focused in on two pieces. One, getting new sales, and two, upsell. So how can I grow revenue, right? That's really where our sweet spot is right now. And then, of course, somebody wants to fund us with $50 million, we'll do it in every place.
Well, in the interest of time here, I'm going to go to some audience questions. I think we have time for one or two questions. And the first one is, interestingly, when I talk about overcoming objections, one objection that we see pretty frequently is, how can I trust the AI, right? We talked about building trust with the clients, but how can we trust the AI that's coaching us, that's being used internally, that's doing this? Maybe we can talk about trust. So, Jean, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think there is, we're part of an organization called Responsible AI. We're really trying to really think this through of how can you trust it. We also add a lot of guardrails in, right? We don't want to say anything wrong or bad. We're trying to make sure the information is accurate. So when you're looking at different providers and looking at how you're doing it, really look at what are their thoughts on responsible AI, and above and beyond even compliance stuff, but what are they really how are they building their AI to make sure it's trustworthy?
Mike, let me turn it over to you from the security, compliance, and privacy side of things. What do you think about when you think about trusting the AI?
Yeah, don't trust the AI. No, I think a lot of it goes into anytime there's an AI tool, you have to understand from a privacy perspective where the data is stored, what's happening with the data, who's processing it, is it leaving, continental US, or if you're working with someone in the EU, are you following all the GDPR rules, etc. And so I think a lot of due diligence generally from a privacy perspective, and then also, as Jean said, you put up guardrails, you try and also have, human validate things to a certain degree. We always try to do that with AI. But at the end of the day, humans are responsible for their work product. And if they're leveraging an AI tool, they're responsible for the work product of that AI tool. And we've seen that go really, really well. And we've seen that go really, really badly. There's been a couple of court cases recently, one that happened a year ago or so, the other one that's actually going through right now, where AI hallucinated, came up with court cases that didn't exist for the brief. Lawyers got put on the spot for, hey, why is this in your brief? It doesn't exist. We see this when people write cybersecurity policies using AI. It writes what it wants, and the AI tends to be 80% correct. And so, again, just trying to make sure that what it's putting out is correct. And it's always just like with a human, right? It's trust but verify. If I come to you and I ask you a question and I don't know you and you give me an answer, I'm like, cool, that's nice. Let me go verify.
Yeah, no, and I think we've seen that with tools historically too, right? It's just because the tool exists does not mean that the tool fixes all the problems, right? And we saw this when people were moving from on-premise computing to cloud computing, and from pre-internet to internet, and from the way they were using search tools and things like that, right? At the end of the day, just because you find it on the internet does not mean that it's true. It's still up to you to validate it, and that's true whether it's the search result that brings you back some Reddit shit post that is complete nonsense, and you say, oh, it's on the internet, it must be true, or whether it's the AI hallucinating it. It's still up to the human to verify the work product that they're producing.
I don't think you're ever that's our product does not remove humans. It enables humans to work better, right? I think the ones that are supposedly fully automated this or that is really hard. It's really hard right now. And nobody's really cracked it to scale. Gronk did some crazy stuff the other day, right? And so even the bit, it's just, it's hard. It's hard to do that at scale and keep it in place. And that's why you really have to look at what people are doing. and know that don't trust it 100% yet, right? It's not like put it on auto and walk away.
Yeah, and so maybe you've already answered this then, but the last question that I think we have time for is, what are the biggest mistakes people are making when it comes to AI? And this is specifically about the sales process, but we'll broaden the topic a little bit.
I think I think it's brilliant for things, but I think like you're saying, Mike, you can't copy and paste it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You still have to read through what it produces, and make sure. And what I like to do is source. Even look at the source. Always ask it to source things. Always ask it why. Pick this. You can ask after it does an output. Say, now go back into it and tell me everything it's done. How you would pick this apart and what's wrong with it, right? So you can run it. I've heard a couple different strategies. Run it 3 times and then ask it to do things. Like those are the guardrails we talk about, right? And then you don't want it to say curse words, of course. Like I think for me, remember it's still a machine, and you're still smarter than it. So read it, and just don't copy and paste.
I don't know. I've met some people that the AI is smarter than.
Yeah.
Aside, Mike, what would you add?
Yeah, I'd say the other piece of that is we currently, as humanity, have guardrails for ourselves in place that for some reason people, when it comes to AI, toss out the window. AI writes code and you're like, cool, how can you tell if it's good? And people are like, I don't know. Right now we have a process for this, right? A junior developer writes some code and there's a code review process where a senior developer comes in and validates that code. Like, why people's minds when it comes to AI, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, like this process no longer applies. Why? Humanity in general has built a lot of guardrails within itself, and you just need to treat AI as a junior level associate of whatever and validate their work, right? That's great to give you a great starting point. If you have your own LLM, you can train it to be more than a junior associate to a degree, but just remember that anything that AI does, think of it as a junior person doing that job and follow your regular process.
Thanks, everyone.
Get Misty.